You're listening to Popcorn Unscripted,
the podcast where we dive into movies and TV shows with no scripts, no filters, just real talk and plenty of popcorn.
I'm Bailey.
And I'm Dylan.
We're here to talk about everything we love
And love to hate.
in pop culture. So grab your popcorn,
Sit back.
and let's get this show started. Alright, Dylan, it's episode 22.
Crap.
What do you mean crap? You don't know. Okay, so today we are reviewing Sinners. This movie has been out for a while, but it just come out to stream on Max.
What, today?
It was Friday the 4th.
Oh, okay.
It came out on the 4th of July.
Kind of funny.
That is kind of funny. It really is.
Very entertaining.
Yes, it was very entertaining. I was honestly surprised with the musical choices.
I was too. It has some really good music.
It really did. I was more impressed with the music than anything else, in all honesty.
Yeah, I can agree. But the visual scenery was actually very well done too.
It really was, yeah. I think this movie also had a lot of soul in it too. I could just feel that.
Yeah,
coming
I can agree.
from it. It just had a lot of soul, in which that's usually what a lot of black communities have, is a lot of soul.
Oh.
And I admire that a lot. So, Michael B. Jordan plays twin brothers Smoke and Stack. How do you feel about his portrayal of both characters? Do you think he successfully differentiated the two roles, and which performance stood out more to you?
I'm going to be honest with you, I did not even register that they were the same person.
Yeah, they were the same person.
I didn't register them being the same person at all. I registered them as two completely different people.
Which is what he was supposed to do, so...
Yeah. So he did a fantastic job, honestly.
Yeah.
Especially with the mannerism and how both of them talked. Mm-hmm. You could definitely tell that think that they were separate people.
Yeah.
But he did a really good job of portraying both characters, honestly, and bringing life to them as well. Yeah.
So it's like Smoke was more of like the hard-ass brother. He was the one that was kind of strict, and he had like these regulations that he needed to be followed in order for everything to go smoothly. And then Stack was the brother that was just like, live a little, let loose, you know? Yeah. So...
Not to mention, it had the little bit of a playboy side there, a little bit.
A little bit, but I think, if I remember correctly, both brothers served in a war.
Yes, they were both soldiers.
They were both soldiers, and so they kind of just had that about them, too.
Yeah, that really showed at the end of basically at the end of the whole film, at that, when the clan guys came up.
Yeah.
And he basically acted like a soldier, pretty much, when he was taking them out.
Yeah. So
it definitely showed right there, along with how Smokes carried himself. Mm-hmm. He definitely had that air around him that he was, in fact, he did, in fact, used to be a soldier. So
here's a good question. What was one moment that you weren't expecting?
Like a moment that caught you off guard?
Well... yeah, but, like, what was just the one thing that you didn't see coming?
I'm going to be honest with you, I was not expecting the train scene with that one girl.
Train scene? Where they were standing outside of the train?
Yeah. When that girl came up that was in the pink dress.
Oh, Mary?
Yeah. I was not expecting her dialogue with that.
Oh yeah, they talked dirty in this movie. They talked dirty.
They did, and honestly, I think that was some good comedy. Honestly,
yeah,
especially with her line there, that killed me. I had to do a double take. Did I hear her right? Because I had turned away for 1 second to look at my printer to make sure it was printing correctly, and the next thing you know, I get hit with that. I was like, I'm sorry, what? Excuse me? I had to rewind it a couple seconds, like, okay, please tell me if I heard her correctly. Yep, I heard her correctly.
Yeah, and also a bunch of N-word bombs. Which, but then again, you know,
Go beat the black off your ass. That's my favorite.
That's your favorite
line ever to hear in anything, honestly. I've heard that plenty of times before this film and stuff. It's just the funniest thing to ever hear someone say.
It is. It is.
Because
especially
it's
if
just too funny.
Especially if it's in the right context too.
Yes. But I just love that. Honestly, it's because it's just so funny to me.
So, continuing to talk about the two characters, Smoke and Stack, they are very different characters. How do you think their personalities drive the plot forward? Do you find yourself more sympathetic to one over the other?
I'm not sure. But then again, we do know. Are we doing spoiler free or spoilers?
We can do spoilers. I mean, the movie's been out for a few months, and it's just come to streaming. So, if you don't want any spoilers and you're listening to this, I highly recommend you go watch the movie before you continue on. Please and thank you.
Yeah, this is currently your warning.
Yes, this
Graham,
is...
we probably already warned it anyway. We should have probably done it earlier when we mentioned that one scene.
Oh well.
But I think it really shows when it came to Smokes when he went to the baby's grave.
Mm-hmm.
And how he reacted and everything, because it really shows how different their compassion to other people.
Yeah,
Smokes was very compassionate when it came to who's the lady's name?
Ah, crap.
We are not the best when it comes to names.
No,
we remember faces.
I remember. I'm way better with faces.
Yeah, it was the woman who was in...
The witch woman. That's what I'm going to call her.
The witch woman.
Because that's what she did!
I mean, to be fair, it worked later in the movie.
It did!
It worked very well.
A witch woman. I'm just going to call her that.
But it really showed when he was communicating with her and everything, and then when we cut to... Stacks. I had to like, clear my throat. When it cut to Stacks and when he was talking... he got that one girl to watch over his truck while he go talk to that guy. Mm-hmm. And he just flat shot the two guys.
No, that was Smoke.
Oh, that was Smoke?
That was Smoke.
I heard them backwards. I had them backwards.
That was Smoke. I think. I'm pretty sure that was Smoke.
I hope.
Yes, that was Smoke because Stack was still in the car with his cousin. Because Smoke was driving the big truck. See, look, we've already got him confused. God. I knew we were going to get him confused.
To be fair, it's to be expected when it's the same actor portraying both characters, but the only small difference in really when it comes to visual-wise is their clothing.
Yeah.
One wears red, the other one wears
blue.
more of a bluish green.
Yeah.
Turquoise.
More blue. I went by the hat.
The hat does help,
because
honestly.
they wore two different styles of hats.
That's right, they did.
Mm-hmm.
Hang on, I'm pulling back it up so I can pull up the cast. It was Annie. Annie was the witch woman. Annie and God,
Smoke.
Great. Now that really confused the heck out of me.
Smoke is the one with Annie. Stack is the one with Mary.
Okay, so I had them backwards. Okay, let me rephrase my sentencing now.
I honestly would say I sympathize more with Smoke than I do with Stack. Because Stack is more flamboyant and he's kind of out there. He's, like, you know, he puts himself into trouble. Whereas Smoke is way more careful and, what's the word? Aware?
Yeah, I was going to say tactical. But no.
I'd probably say aware. He's more careful and aware of what's going on. And he knows what he needs to do in order to keep the peace to a certain degree until he is like, I don't want to keep the peace anymore. And just...
I mean, to be fair, it really did show at the, at the slaughterhouse. Mm-hmm. It really showed there with how he acted and everything. So he does show it, and and very like.
And by the slaughterhouse, you mean the
club.
Yeah,
I think is that what they called it? The club or
something?
No,
it's something juke.
I was going off of the sign. I was going off of the sign that they had one lady do.
I don't remember what it was called specifically, but it was something juke. Anyway.
Dear God, the math. I confuse the heck out of myself with them. Because I've had them backwards the entire time.
Yeah, Stack is the guy with the red, Smoke is the guy in the blue.
I thought it was completely backwards because I thought it was the reason why I thought that, honestly, was probably because the dude's always looking for the smoke, basically.
Yeah.
Because he's always putting him in that himself in that situation. So my brain immediately thought, okay, that makes sense why he's called Smoke. He's always wanting to smoke.
Well, yeah, Smoke does do that. He's always asking for a cigarette.
Not in that way. He's always looking for a fight, basically, in a way.
Yeah, that's Stack. That's Stack.
That's why I thought he was. That's why I
just
thought
go by colors. That's what I did.
That's why I thought he was.
Don't make it complicated. Just go by colors.
Well, I mean, that's why I thought that is because he's always won the smoke, basically.
No, but he did smoke.
Yeah, but that's not what I was going
off of.
Smoke
didn't smoke.
Yeah, Smoke didn't smoke.
I mean, he smoked him a pipe there at
He did
Annie's.
light a cigarette at the end, but it also gave a flash. It also, when he was basically dying, that it showed him why he doesn't smoke.
Yeah.
So it does show there the why he doesn't, but the Stack just does it just to do it.
Yeah.
Dear God.
So
the fact that I confused this entire dang time.
We're gonna move on to talking about the villain of the movie, which, to be fair, as I was watching it, I wasn't paying very close attention to it because when I'm at home, I have like a million different things going on, so it's hard for me to just sit down and focus on one thing. But
the dialogue kind of slips from me at times.
Especially when it sounds like it all runs together and you can't understand what they're saying. Especially with Smoke and Stack specifically. More specifically Stack than anything. It sounded like he would just run his words together. I had to turn on the subtitles.
Yeah, I did notice that happened a lot throughout the film. That was probably the only
he talks quietly sometimes too. And with his words running together, it doesn't make it any better.
I think that's also another way to tell him apart from mannerisms, really, is that Stack does have that way of talking.
Yeah.
He talks more low than anything.
Yeah.
While Smokes talks, he still talks low, but he talks slower.
Yeah. He doesn't try to run his words together.
Yeah. Stack talks a little bit faster than Smoke does. So it is hard to understand what's going on at times when what they're saying.
Yeah.
Everyone else, though, didn't seem to have that problem a lot of times.
Mary, maybe?
Maybe. A little bit.
When
she got riled up.
Yeah, but but not as bad as Stack. I think Stack was the hardest one to kind of understand and listen to. And maybe Sammy sometimes.
Yeah. He talked low, but slow.
His tone is low.
Yeah, he talks low and slow, but he also has a more quieter voice, too.
Yes, he does.
On top of that.
He does.
So it makes it a little harder to hear what he's saying exactly. Yeah. You can get, like, certain parts, like when he's singing, that's when it's crystal clear.
Yeah.
But when he's talking, like, normally, especially when it's in, like, a giant crowd like it was in the Slaughterhouse, it's hard to understand what exactly he's saying.
Yeah. So, we're going to move on to the villain. Remick is his name.
I'm going to honestly, I didn't even know the man had a name.
I didn't either until I turned on the subtitles. I didn't know his name. I actually didn't hear his name said at all.
I got confused when they first showed him, because I was not expecting vampires, honestly.
I don't think anybody was when they first saw this movie.
I was thinking demons, honestly, more so than anything.
It did have, like, that demonic feel more so than it did vampires. But I find it interesting that they went the vampire route then.
Well, it's the way the eyes were done. They were white, except his were dark red.
Yeah. Well, he was the host.
Yeah, he was the host. And
or he was the one that started the line in the first place.
Yeah. So everyone that he bit afterwards would have had white eyes instead of red.
Yeah.
It's just, it got very confusing. I got very confused at why it's like, I didn't realize he was a demon or anything until, or vampire or anything, until he asked if he can come in. And that's it. And that's what gave me the impression, oh, vampire.
Yeah.
Because they can't enter a place without being invited in.
Yeah.
But I wasn't originally thinking that when I saw him burning in the sunlight or anything.
Yeah.
I thought he may, but when he told his story, I thought that's why I didn't think about it whatsoever. Yeah. I just thought it's like, okay, maybe he got burned or something from like being tortured by some people.
Funny enough, I thought the same thing.
Yeah. I wasn't immediately going, oh, vampire or something.
But what did you think when the door opened and you saw like the KKK uniform in the back?
I mean, I was not very surprised at all, seeing the fact that earlier in the entire film, it did say that it did mention the KKK, but they were disbanded.
Yeah.
Quote unquote.
Quote unquote disbanded.
And I was not really surprised. I figured there might be a little bit of that in here, seeing the fact that it does. It is during that
time. It is during that time period where slavery had just been abolished, and there were still like a few plantations around.
Yeah.
You know, but it wasn't as bad as it used to be.
Yeah. Seeing the fact that we did, like when they were driving past them, and the one guy had looked up at them and waved, and then they fired a shotgun in the sky.
Yeah.
To like as a warning. So it definitely
shows those were prisoners.
Yeah, those were prisoners, but it did. Sammy.
Yeah.
It showed there.
Yeah.
Basically that this was still during that time when some places were like that, but some places weren't.
Yeah. And this was also during a time where segregation was still like really
very, very rampant.
Very, very. And you know, and that's why I think they were hesitant to let them in when they first got to the slaughterhouse. They were just like, why are you here? Why do you want to associate with us? You know? And then they were like, oh, well then how did she get in? Referring to Mary. And they were like, well, she's family. Because her dad was half black.
Yeah. Not to mention she did have some relations with Stack. I'm doing it again.
You're doing it again. But yeah.
I'll say it feels more fitting for the S at the end, honestly, at times.
Well, but that's not their names.
I know, but it just seems more fitting with the S at the end, honestly.
So, speaking of Mary, so Haley Steinfeld's character Mary is deeply intertwined with both Smoke and Stack. What do you think about her journey and her ultimate choice between the two? Was her arc believable and satisfying? I think you're forgetting a key thing here.
I think I am.
So, if you remember, so Mary's mother had just died. She had just buried her.
Yes. Because she had told Stax at the train station.
Yes. So her mother was basically their mother.
I did again.
And she raised both Smoke and Stack.
Yeah.
She raised both of them. And so she was upset that neither of them had come to the funeral.
And then Stax made that joke quip about purchasing all the flowers for her.
Yeah, while she was still alive to smell them.
Yeah.
But Mary had made the comment to, I believe, Sammy, who said that she was the one who birthed them herself and even fed them from her own, she fed them as if they were her own.
Yeah. I do remember that part. because it was while at the club.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna call it the club, honestly, instead of just saying slaughterhouse, which it actually was.
Well, it only got called a slaughterhouse because of at the end.
No, it got called the slaughterhouse because that's what it originally was. That's what the vampire was telling them, is that it was actually a slaughterhouse.
No, that's not why they call it a slaughterhouse. They called it the slaughterhouse because a bunch of black people went in there and the KKK was still around in that area. So the KKK, at the end of the movie, was coming to kill all of them.
Okay.
That's why he referred it to a slaughterhouse.
Okay, I misunderstood that it used to be a slaughterhouse.
No, it was
as in that happened.
This is a slaughterhouse.
Yeah, I thought it happened. What he was referring to was it was a past thing, and that they were going to do it a second time.
No. Okay,
I misunderstood. No. I misunderstood that it was going to happen a second time. Not the first time.
No. That's not what he was referring to.
Yeah, I misunderstood what he was saying.
He was making a threat.
Yeah.
He was making a threat. Is what he was doing. But, anyway, I feel like I think Mary was a lot closer to Stack, especially since they had a bit of a history.
Yeah.
And Smoke was and I think her and Smoke were just kind of like, I don't really know how to explain it, but I think they just didn't really have much of, I think they had, a brother-sister relationship because of her relationship with Stack, but Smoke didn't really like her all that much. Mm. Or he was kind of, seeing her as not family, but as, maybe a pest or something that he wanted to get rid of.
Yeah.
Because of who she was,
Because I'm trying to think. Because, I mean, even as vampires and stuff, her and Stax kind of still stuck together.
Oh, yeah. Because even though that they were dead, their souls were still there.
Yeah.
So they still had...
I mean, they still had the memories and everything.
Yeah. So it's they weren't gone. They're not gone per se, but they've transformed into something else.
Yeah. Because even at the end of the movie, it does have them both go and see Sammy when he's old. Mm-hmm. And respecting what Smoke had asked of him. Mm-hmm. To not to let Sammy live out his life. Mm-hmm. And even offered to turn him into a vampire so he could continue, but Sammy declined. Mm-hmm. Saying that he's already seen enough of this.
Yeah.
Now, he still has nightmares that night, too.
Yeah. So, we were talking about, the race and segregation earlier. Yeah. So, this movie is set in 1932 Mississippi. The film deals with heavy themes of racism and segregation. How do you think the movie explores these themes through the lives of Smoke, Stack, and Mary? Did it feel authentic to the historical context, or did it feel forced?
Honestly, I think it did a great job.
I think it did too. I think it hit the
nail on the head.
Yeah.
It did a very dang good job on it, honestly. It made all the interactions feel very realistic and everything.
It really did. It felt like I had went back in time, really. Mm. And it was very neat to see all of that.
Yeah, it did and not to mention the interaction between each character and everything. Especially with the choices of dialogue that they say to each other, It does really give that vibe of what time period it is in, and everything.
Yeah.
So I think it does a fantastic job of putting us in the shoes of these characters and time period that they're set in. Mm-hmm. Grant, I thought it was a little earlier. I didn't think it was 1932. Me and Dad was thinking it was 1920.
No, it was a little later than that.
Yeah.
I honestly didn't even know what year it was until I read this question. I didn't know what time period. I knew it was during the time period of, the segregation, and I knew it was after slavery was somewhat abolished.
Yeah.
For the most part. And so... Because if I remember correctly in this part of history, I think it was left up to the states whether they kept slavery or not.
I believe so.
Until the government was like, no, we're just abolishing it altogether.
Yeah.
In all 50 states.
Yeah, because you can definitely see that it's still going on at this moment.
Yeah, because you still have some of them working at plantations, which we saw them picking cotton and stuff.
Yeah, and they did also bring a point with the fact that they had gone to Chicago, and this was not going on there.
Yeah.
So it definitely shows that in some areas there is still slavery going on, but it's slowly gotten rid of.
Which I think it was more in the South than it was out to the West, though. Which is why he was saying in Chicago you don't see any of this, but when you come back, which of course this was in Mississippi, which was a southern state.
Yeah.
You know, you see a lot of that still in the southern states. Which, if I remember correctly in this part of history as well, the southern states didn't want to abolish slavery.
Yep. If
I remember correctly.
That's correct.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure because if I remember, but I think it's like the southern farmers just didn't want to give up their help, which
I think
if that's the right wording for that.
Helping quotation marks.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think you are correct with it because it does. It was mainly the South that wanted to keep the slavery and everything, and it was the North that pushed back against it. Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
Because that's what led into the Civil War.
I thought it was something else that led into the Civil War.
To be fair, it might have, because Graham, it was the time when we were kicking our own butts, basically. No, this was long after.
That's what I was thinking.
1861, 1865.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, I don't think this was like long after the Civil War.
The three main causes of the American Civil War were slavery, states' rights, and economic difference between the North and the South.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't just slavery.
It wasn't just slavery, but that was one of the driving forces. But it was
part of it, yeah.
That was one of the driving forces for it.
Yeah.
Was the fact that
and that's why you had, like, the, what was that called? The train, but it wasn't actually a train.
Underground Railroad?
Yeah, the Underground Railroad. Yeah. Because
you had help get the slaves to
up north
where they could get their freedom.
So we keep talking about the supernatural twist in this movie. So
yeah, because it comes out of left field, honestly, and it comes near almost like the near end of the movie.
Yeah, because you don't really. Well, actually, no. You see it towards like the middle of the movie when you see.
It's a little past it. It's like it's like the third of the way of the film when you see it.
Yeah, when the guy goes into the man and woman's house and he ends up killing the guy, turning that guy, her husband,
into a vampire.
Ends up turning her.
But then you don't see him again until after they've already done the dances, they've done singing and everything.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, that's when it starts focusing solely on these vampires.
Yeah, because that's where the night officially starts.
Yeah, and goes to hell.
Yeah. So the movie introduces vampires into the historical setting. How did this supernatural element change the direction of the story? Did the addition of vampires elevate the tension, or did it feel like an odd mix with the film's grounded themes?
Honestly, I think it elevated.
I think it did. I honestly think it's both.
I think
it's both odd, but it definitely elevated the story.
Yeah, because honestly, when we saw the previews, you never think vampires with what it's given you. I mean,
you think like demons.
Yeah, you might have gotten it a little bit when it did show Mary in that one preview covered in blood.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you wouldn't immediately think vampire. You would think something else.
Yeah.
Especially the way they acted, their movements and everything.
Yeah.
And all you would get literally was her, and I'm about to do it again. stack, having the white eyes basically,
Yeah.
or that kind of white glint in the eye.
Yeah.
Really,
No, their eyes were white.
not fully.
No, you're right.
It almost looked like the pupils were white instead of black.
Yeah.
And that's the only difference.
Yeah.
But at times it almost looked like a little white glare in the eyes instead of like entire full white.
Yeah.
But you would not think immediately vampire. You would think something else.
Yeah.
Especially seeing the fact that we don't see anything like biting or anything. We only see that at all in the previews. Mm-hmm. So that's another layer of that you have no clue what's going into it.
I think that's what made the whole vampire thing so shocking, because I think that was the one thing people were surprised the most about it when they went and watched it to the theaters.
Oh, yeah.
And experienced it in the theaters. They were not expecting vampires.
Yeah, I got confused at that for a hot minute until I saw him asking to come into their home.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that gave me, vampire.
Yeah.
Because a demon ain't gonna do that.
Which then again, I didn't realize what they were until after they got done talking with Mary.
Yeah.
I didn't pick up on it until that point.
I only picked up on that one because of the fact that the whole, that's the oldest rule in the book when it comes to vampires.
Uh-huh.
They have to ask for permission to enter your home. They can't just barge their way in.
Which I guess is really nice of them.
It's very
nice of them.
Grant, I think it's because of growing up with stuff like that, seeing the fact that, for example, that old movie that I showed you that I grew up with as a kid on Cartoon Network, Scary Godmother.
Yeah.
The three parents and the son Orpheus, they were all vampires, and when he tried to rush in to go see Hannah, instead of letting him go through, a magic barrier formed around the door and launching him back out the door.
Yeah.
So he couldn't get in. And then when Scary Godmother told him that he could come in, that's when he was able to walk in no trouble.
Yeah.
So there was some stuff that I remembered about vampires. But I forgot about the burning in sunlight.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I forgot.
Twilight messed us up with that.
Well, more so is the fact that I didn't immediately think that. Is the fact that I just thought he got injured by some group or something.
Yeah, that's what I had thought too.
Which, when he told his story, that made sense. But immediately when he said, "Can I come in?" and everything, it's like, why are you asking that?
Yeah.
Why have everything you specifically asked to come in?
But
especially twice.
But he said people were coming after him, though.
True, but he also asked it twice.
Yeah.
Before being let in.
Yeah.
Why would you ask twice?
Just to be persistent, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe.
Just to be persistent.
But then also, granted, I think it was a little, it kind of bent the rules a little bit at when everyone started turning to vampires and everything. Mm-hmm. Because I think one person was able to step into it without realizing it. I don't know if that was a mistake or something, but he did step into the building for a short second before stepping back out. It was God, who was it? Cornball. The bouncer.
That's cornbread.
Cornbread. Okay, cornbread.
That's
It was corn something. I couldn't think of it.
Cornbread.
But I don't know if it was a mistake on the actor or what. He did step into the building for a short time before stepping back out and he said no, because he did enter the building, but then stepped back out when she said that.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know if it was a mistake.
Really paying attention.
I don't know if it was a mistake or something. I just happened to catch that small little thing, and it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Interesting.
I could be misinterpreted, but it looked like I did see him step up, like he's stepping into the building.
Yeah.
So it looks like he's stepping into the building when he wasn't supposed to.
Yeah. I'll have to watch it again.
Because I didn't see like a step or anything before you walked in. I saw like
there is.
There's a step up to get in when
there's
in the doorway.
not.
Like in the doorway, there's a step up. but there's no like
yeah.
actual like an extra step.
There's
there.
not a step at the door itself.
Yeah, you just have to step up in order to get into the building.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
But there's no like actual like extra step, 2 steps to get in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess is a way to say it.
Yeah. So the twin brothers have a complicated dynamic, especially as Smoke becomes more of a leader in the supernatural world. How do their personal conflicts reflect the larger power struggle at play? Did you find their final showdown satisfying?
I honestly did. It does seem very satisfying, especially with the fact that he's using his own past against him. Mm-hmm. Like with the fact that he had to kill Annie because she asked him to, so she wouldn't become one. Mm-hmm. Which, that's the most cliche thing, I think.
It is, but I mean...
That's the only, like, cliche thing I noticed. Was please kill me, I don't want to become one of them.
That's like the most apocalyptic thing you could do.
Yeah, especially seeing the fact that it's happened in multiple medias, mainly zombie movies.
Yeah, mostly zombie movies. But I think with their personal conflicts, I would say, how do I put this? So obviously the two brothers are completely different people. Stack being very out there, he wants to go with the flow, let people be people, things of that nature. And then Smoke wants to have order. He wants to make the most money that he can. It really shows the differences between the two brothers and the power dynamic between the two.
Oh, yeah.
And also, I believe it shows how easily Stack could be manipulated, especially with Mary.
Yeah, very easily.
And so, but that just also shows Stack's heart as well. I believe Stack had more of a heart than Smoke did.
Yeah. Granted, Smoke was more so towards Annie.
Yeah.
Especially with the fact that he lost his kid, basically.
Yeah.
I think it's his kid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But, because at the end of the entire film, it does show, like, him hallucinating her being next to him while years earlier with the baby and everything.
Yeah.
Well, then again, we don't know how much time had passed since then.
No, she lost the baby like a long time ago. The hallucination was because of him dying.
No, I'm saying the moment he's hallucinating, we don't know how long ago it was in the past.
It wasn't in the past. That was in the present. That was him going into the light.
I read sure it is him reliving a moment.
No.
Where he was really happy.
That was her waiting for him on the other side.
Yeah,
of the veil.
Once again, misinterpreted. I read sure that is him reliving an important moment in his life, honestly. Because of the fact that he was dying.
Mm-mm. He never got to hold his kid.
Oh, did he not?
No.
Oh.
Because my theory is that she either miscarried or the baby died at birth.
I think it probably died at birth because they did have an entire grave for it.
Yeah. But then again, even though you miscarry, I mean, you can bury that, I guess.
Yeah. But the way it makes it out to seem is that the baby did die after giving birth. Yeah. Either there's some complication or something.
It could have been a complication or something.
Because she did the hallucinations.
Because even she said while they were preparing to like take on the vampires and stuff, Annie even said, "I have somebody waiting on the other side of the veil." Yeah. We have somebody waiting for us on the other side of the veil. Yeah. And that's why she told Smoke, she was like, "If I get bit, you kill me." That's why she said that. Was because the baby was on the other side.
I was thinking that the end of the movie was that he did get to hold his baby. I didn't know he didn't get to hold the baby.
No, at the end he did get to hold the baby.
I'm talking about in the past when he
Yeah, in the
didn't.
past he didn't.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I don't think he did.
I thought he was reliving it.
I don't think
that
he
moment.
did. No, there's no evidence of that. But
the reason why I say is because the fact that when you're dying, you see like your past flash before your eyes and everything.
Yeah,
That's what I thought he was doing. Basically, he was reliving,
No.
but he was reliving a important moment, but also it wasn't actually there.
no, that was him moving into the veil with them.
Yeah.
That was him moving into that next part of his life.
I feel like it's Grant. I guess you can really take it as
Because if the baby died of complications, then they wouldn't have had that moment.
True. But then again, I guess either way is an emotional impact for you.
It is.
For any way, regardless. Because if he didn't, then that's the only time he got to hold the baby. While at the same time, if he did get to hold the baby, that was him reliving that moment before he died. The one time, and then the baby maybe had complications afterwards.
I don't know. There's no evidence of that I remember.
Yeah. That's just what I'm thinking, that's what I was thinking when that happened, was that he was reliving that moment, but it was just as a hallucination, not actually happening.
No. I think it was him finally letting go. It was like
Finally
it was like he
accepting
was still alive and he could still see that guy in front of him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, he could still see everything and everything. It's just reliving that moment. But
I think that when he takes hold of the baby, that's when he dies. That's when he dies.
Yeah.
That was when his spirit finally crossed over.
To be fair, you can also tell that he definitely did die when he held the baby. Mm-hmm. Because if you notice that when he was taking the cigarette and everything from that guy, his hands were shaky. But when he was holding the baby, they were still. Mm-hmm. Without any issues.
Yeah.
So that definitely shows that he definitely did die when he held the baby.
Oh yeah.
In that moment.
Oh yeah. So, we had briefly talked about the music earlier. So, the soundtrack, heavily influenced by blues music, plays a big part in creating atmosphere. How do you feel about the use of blues in the film? Did it enhance the film's themes of struggle, redemption, and violence?
I think it did a fantastic job and definitely enhanced it.
I agree. I love... Which, I grew up with this type of music due to my pawpaw. So the blues and stuff, which my pawpaw played a mandolin. And so all of that was kind of like nostalgia for me, personally.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know where I was going with that.
This music has more of an impact than
it has more of an impact to me, but I'm also musically inclined, so I just enjoy music anyway. But I loved hearing Sammy sing.
Oh yeah, he has a definitely good voice.
It was so good. It gave me chill bumps. It was so good. I was just like, oh my god. But I also liked how odd it was for them to start blending in futuristic stuff into that scene.
I actually liked that.
I really liked that.
They kept on beat with everything, making it sync perfectly and everything.
Yeah.
I think the only time it was a little off key was when it cut to behind the camera with the twerking. It sounded a little bit off key, but not much to where it caused too much of an issue.
Well, I don't think it was off key. I think it was off beat, maybe.
It might have been off beat. It just sounded like a tiny bit off with that when that moment showed.
It was just an odd.
And then went back perfectly again when it got to when they were playing cards in that one room.
Yeah.
So it definitely showed how much they could use to like make it perfectly in sync and everything.
Oh yeah.
Especially with the different ways to make music, especially when it came to past and present, or past and future.
Yeah.
Or past, present, and future for them.
Mm-hmm.
And it did a fantastic job, even when it showed older Sammy and him singing everything when Stack came back to try and like ask him if he wanted to be a vampire again.
Yeah.
Vampire to keep living, keep making records and all that.
Yeah.
And even old Sammy had a very good voice and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And he even kept the old guitar as well after probably being replaced or fixed up.
No. No. It was broken. He broke it.
Yeah.
He didn't have that guitar anymore.
He got a new one at the end of the movie.
Yeah, Stack gave him a new one.
Oh, that's right. Okay. I thought he may have gotten like a replacement or something, or had someone like fix it or something.
No, that guitar was gone. Like all he had left was the handle.
Yeah, all he had was the neck and that, like half the neck.
Yeah, that's all he had left of it.
Granted, if you're probably skilled enough, you could probably find a way to fix it.
With just the neck?
I'm sure there's people that can probably find a way.
You would have had to make a completely new guitar from scratch.
Well, more so like the bottom of it.
The body.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would have had to build that from scratch. Which also you would have had to go ahead and build a whole new neck too.
True.
Because it was only half the neck that he had left.
Well, unless you like cut off the parts where it's like splintered and everything, and then you just attach it to the
You might
new
as well
one.
just get a whole new neck at that point.
True, because then you're basically replacing the whole thing to begin with.
Yeah. So I mean.
Then again, there's been ways that you can fix the most randomest things with that little stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured that he replaced or got fixed. I didn't realize Stack gave him a brand new one.
Yeah. Yeah. So, talking about the ending. So, the ending left a lot to unpack, especially with the fate of Smoke and Stack. How did you interpret the final showdown? Did you feel closure, or were there lingering questions you still had about the character's future?
Honestly, I think we just got closure, honestly.
Yeah.
Because even we see how Sammy went after that.
Mm-hmm.
And to be fair, we already thought that Stack and Mary were dead because of everyone burning at the end of the film.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the things I was surprised. I was just like, wait a minute, why are they not dead?
Then again, we didn't see where Mary had gone to. We saw that Stack was still inside the building, so he couldn't burn.
Yeah.
He couldn't burn because he was inside the building.
Yeah.
So it's
because
more so like he found a way around it.
I'm sure Smoke like left him in like maybe knocked him out or knocked him unconscious somehow.
Yeah.
And just left him there inside, not really thinking about it.
Since he did make basically have Stack promise to leave Sammy alone until that way he could live out his life.
Yeah.
So he probably struck a deal where if he kept that up, then he would keep him from dying basically in the sunlight.
Yeah.
And then Stack took it from there after Smoke had died from his wounds.
Yeah. But yeah.
But I think it did a good job of closure, honestly.
Yeah.
And it was just while it was a shock to see Stack and Mary still alive, you can kind of see that there was no reason for them to be if we didn't see them in that giant horde burning earlier.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But then again, we weren't expecting that because, well, we didn't see them in the crowd. We thought they were, though, implied to be in the crowd.
Right. But we didn't actually physically see them there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it does a good job of closing everyone's story basically, while also continuing Sammy's to pick up where he went with life.
Mm-hmm.
After leaving the church and everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, he left the plantation. The church was on the plantation.
Yeah. Because while he agreed with his father and everything, he just didn't want to put down his music.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So just to kind of wrap things up here, so Sinners deals with heavy themes like guilt, vengeance, and identity. How did these themes resonate with you personally? Did the film make you rethink ideas about morality, justice, and family?
I don't know. It definitely does make you sit and think after watching it, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with how your outlook on certain things are.
Yeah. Especially when it comes to that time period specifically. It really makes you think, like, I'm glad the things happened the way it did. Because now we're all living in a unison and not divided. In some ways. In some instances. Yeah.
Because, granted, anyone can make the argument that we are divided as a nation anyway.
Well, I mean, you have your politics and stuff. I mean, you have...
Which that needs... Honestly, that can be put aside.
But for the most part, we are all one people. We are all one nation, regardless of what our beliefs are.
Yeah.
We all live under one country.
Yeah.
And so, it's... Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Unscripted.
Unscripted. But yeah. Pretty much, it does a very good job of saying how everyone thought and everything back then.
Mm-hmm.
Along with, that's when it came to family, that's all you had. But at the same time, you can still see, a lot of times you're not going to see eye to eye.
Yeah.
But there are ways to make compromises for certain instances.
Yeah. And it also shows that you don't have to be alone during times of darkness.
Yeah.
You don't have to go through any of that alone. You will always have family and friends to rely on and to help you through the times that you were struggling with, essentially.
And basically, for example, with Sammy and everything, it just comes down to the choices that you make that lead to your future.
Mm-hmm.
Because if he had put down the music right then and there, he would not been where he was at the end of the film.
Yeah.
But that's the choice that he made, to leave the plantation but continue pursuing his music. Because that was what he found joy in.
Which, and also, that's what his cousins would have wanted him to do.
Yeah. Because they gave him the guitar that used to belong to their father.
Which, of course, he didn't know that.
Yeah, he didn't know that.
Because Stack told him a story.
And then Smoke told him the actual story.
Yeah. And so it made it more personal.
And more symbolic.
Yeah, more symbolic. Absolutely.
And to be fair, it showed that he had natural talent when it came to the music. He did. Even when just making music in the club and everything. Mm-hmm. It showed how well he could sing, how well he could play the guitar and everything. Mm-hmm. And it still showed throughout the entire throughout his life when it showed him as an older man at the end of the film. That he, no matter what age he was, he can still sing really dang well, play the guitar extremely well, and have records and everything. Mm-hmm. Heck, Stack even admitted that he had every single record that Sammy put out.
Oh, wow.
So even the fact that he was a vampire and did try to kill Smoke and everything, he still treated him as family, basically.
Yeah.
Or Sammy as family, which they were.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's all for today's episode of Popcorn Unscripted.
Thanks so much for tuning in.
If you enjoyed the conversation, be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at PopUnscripted, then Popcorn Cinema on Facebook.
And let us know your thoughts or any suggestions for future episodes. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out any future episodes. We upload every Wednesday and Saturday.
If you'd like to send us a message or subscribe for bonus content, check out the links in the description.
Your support means a lot and helps keep the conversation going.
If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to leave us a review. It helps us out a ton, and we love hearing your thoughts.
Until next time, keep your popcorn close
and your movie critiques closer.
Thanks for listening to Popcorn Unscripted.